It was Texas, it was Tennessee. It was what I had coming to me.
Alrighty, welcome in, folks. Welcome to the Texas to Tennessee podcast with my friend Soul Gravy to the left, I think.
That doesn't matter.
Tonight we are thrilled to have Nate Hunt on from Shaman's Harvest. Welcome in, Nate.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah,
You
man.
bet, you bet. To get started, first off, shout out to the folks on YouTube that are watching live. We appreciate you being here. Hit the subscribe button if you don't mind. That'll be the last ad for the day. But if you don't mind, Nate, could you take just a couple minutes and for folks that may not be super familiar with you, and give us maybe a little bit of your backstory?
Sure. Well, I'm in a band called Shaman's Harvest. We've been around for 1990, somewhere in the middle of the 90s. We got together in high school, and a couple of those yahoos were still playing together 20 some odd years later. Been touring the country for 15 years or something like that, and playing rock and roll music and pretty Southern influenced stuff, I'd say, probably. And just, lucky enough to just pay the bills, writing some songs and then more importantly, performing the songs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I know you're from
That's
Jefferson. Sorry, go ahead.
That's the nutshell.
Yeah,
version.
perfect. Concise. I like it. I appreciate it. I know you're from Jefferson City, Missouri. So tell us about how you, I guess, kind of worked your way out of Jeff City. I mean, I know there's a music scene in Columbia and Jeff City to a certain extent, but can you talk a little bit about that and how that, I guess, kind of grew from there?
I think, well, it was back in the day. We started out, we started writing our own music right away, but we'd also played plenty of covers, and we just started out as being a house band and a biker bar, as many bands did in the 90s. Right. And we played a lot of blues joints and stuff like that, and did our best at that, which later influenced kind of how our music was kind of molded too, heavily blues influenced, I'd say. And then we just kind of gathered a regional following, and that's how you do it back in the days. Like, you start with your circle and kind of expand that circle until you can hit a couple states and couple cities, and then revisit those cities and then carry on. There was not really a music scene for original music when we were growing up. And if so, we didn't have access to it. Really, we were 15 playing in these bars, so we couldn't really be there if we weren't working anyway. So, so I think one of the things that probably helped us kind of jump off and get, radio play and stuff like that later on was the fact that no one was telling us how to do it, because we were just making it up as we went along. Mm-hmm. We didn't, nobody, there was no internet map or any these business band gurus that are out there now that are telling you how to do it.
Right.
And so we just made up our own rules. And that probably, if we were following what you're supposed to do, we would never just been outside our state, I'm sure. So yeah, just making it up as we went along. The first song that ever got radio recognition nationally was the song called Dragonfly. And if you look at that song, there's nothing about that song that is a radio song. I mean, there's a long intro. It doesn't get to the chorus for like forever. It's this huge long buildup. It's a terrible song for radio, but we believed in it. We just thought, well, people are calling about this song, and no PDs wanted to play the song, but when they give it that test, that midnight test spin or whatever, use it or lose it or whatever those things are,
Right.
People were responding to it, and I think we kind of always used that. We'd use the music fans as a weapon. We weaponized that to kind of really push. Then this is long before social media, thank God, and all those things that I'm sure we'd be in trouble now if we would have made it out the house if we had that. But we'd put together these like teams in different cities back in the day. They're like street teams. When they go out, hand out flyers, come to the show and stuff like that, and kind of mobilize that. And I think that's probably how we got started. And then later on, when satellite radio for rock and roll started hitting, we got in at the ground. Like if we were to approach Octane now with something new, they'd be like, no. But because we were kind of a legacy band in their early days, they still throw us a bone and stuff every now and then. So I guess getting in the right time is really kind of how we're able to launch any kind of professional career or whatever you want to call it.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, I don't know, just from spending a few minutes with you, it sounds like y'all are smart enough that you would have figured it out today as well. So that's awesome that you can share that story, and kind of that feels a little throwback maybe for some folks that are seeing this,
Yeah.
but a lot of the folks that we talk to, a lot of the folks that we talk to today, some of them are pretty new getting into the business, and it is very different to hear, that approach, but that makes me feel good to hear that.
Yeah,
one of the
exactly.
things that we do, I try to be educational for Soul Gravy and help him with his geography. But one of the things I like to do is talk about some of the famous folks from your hometown. So aside from Shaman's Harvest, we have Cedric the Entertainer from Jefferson City.
Right. I think he claims St. Louis.
He does.
I don't think he claims. I think he claims St. Louis.
Born in Jefferson City, though. That's important. Tom Henke and Steve Rogers, former Major League Baseball pitchers.
Okay.
I think Rogers pitched for the Cardinals. No, Rogers pitched for Montreal, and Henke pitched for Toronto and St. Louis, I think. You were listening to some of those games.
I was, yeah. Joe Buck, man.
Yeah, absolutely. William Rose, who wrote Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Pretty big movie. Yeah.
Okay.
A couple more. Arthur Fromer, who I'm going to guess most people aren't familiar with, but he was the originator of Fromer's travel guides. So like back in the day when you were going to Europe, they'd have the little books, whatever. And then maybe the most famous person that was born there is John Daly.
Okay.
So
really?
Everybody associates him
that.
from being from Arkansas, where I think he spent a good chunk of his time, but he was actually born in Jeff City. So there we go. That's my entry.
All right. Thanks. I'm a better Jeff Cityan now.
All right. Here to help.
So I can attest that if you do turn on Turbo and Octane and you listen for any decent amount of time, you're gonna hear Shaman's Harvest on there for sure. So my family listens to that station quite a bit. Those stations quite a bit. That's I'm the oddball one that's going to be listening to Culture Wall and this and that. But I still love all the I'm a '80s baby, '90s kid, so I still love all that stuff. So, well, so what was the first thing to kind of get you on the road out of the Columbia Jeff City scene? What was the first thing? Were you on the opening spot, or did you have something on your own? Or?
Well, I mean, we do some regional tours, like get into Pittsburgh, Kansas, and I don't know, Rock something, Illinois, and wherever Cheap Trick's from. And, we do that little circle there on our own to play to nobody, and then our first single hit, and the very first national tour we did was with a band called Royal Bliss, and who else was on that tour? No, that's wrong. It was Cavo, which is a St. Louis band. They had a song called Champagne. And God, who else? Puddle of Mud, I think, was on that tour, and us, and that was my first foray into, well, this is how you're supposed to act on tour, with the band Puddle of Mud. I don't know if you know anything about them, but let me tell you, it was like, it was like Motley Crue do-over kind of tour, and I just thought that's how you're supposed to be. I remember being in North Carolina, and there was a gator in the back of the venue, and this was night one, and our manager had hired a tour manager for us, and his first thing to us was this, like, "Hey, nice to meet you. I was told not to let you guys drink too much." Well, that's the dumbest thing you could possibly. I think he quit a few days later. We maxed him out, and I tried to jump on the gator in this swampy water. I was in a cast, so then I got naked, and I was trying to go back into the club. Wes from Puddle of Mud shoot me with a paintball gun. It was a whole. That was my entrance into a national tour, night one, and that carried on for about 10 years. After that, just chaos, craziness, and thank God the gator swam away. I did get that cast off about 3 months later. She wasn't happy about the swamp water in there.
Yeah,
it was gnarly. That poor gal. Then it was about 10 years of just pretty much debauchery. And then the music was kind of like on the sidelines, you know what I mean? And then we kind of started getting older and pulling our shit together a little bit after that. It took about 10 years of too many whiskeys, etc.
Understood. And it seemed like a lot of people we've talked to really started. It seemed like the COVID kind of was somewhat of a launching point or a decision time for a lot of people that we've talked to. Coincidentally, some like they just got started in their music career during that time, and some kind of decided, okay, well, this is a great time to reset and things like that. You guys were started to make an album around that same time too, right? Was that how that went?
No, the album was made. It was sitting in the can. We were going to release that January, and then that January was like, nah, nothing's doing. In retrospect, I wish we would have just released the damn thing instead of waiting and waiting. Yeah, but it's by the time we released it, we were all tired of it. We'd had it, we were listening to it ourselves for like a year at that point, and so for us it was weird because, and we did have a lot of shit. Should we go ahead and tour? Should we not? What do we then? We had all of us had to go get. The venues wouldn't even let us in unless we were vaccinated, and all those things. All the things that you had to do. And so we did, but still it was, since pre-COVID period, just break it down for just logistics of touring. I mean, fuel was $2 less diesel, and a bus that gets 5 miles to the gallon, now it's, pretty outrageous nationally anyway. And then, and everybody, bus drivers are double what they used to be beforehand for some reason. Everybody's double, but the venues are still paying us the same amount. So it became pretty difficult to figure out how to tour from a band that had been doing it already, beforehand, but still doing it on our own. We don't get a lot of help. We don't get any label help for touring or anything like that. That's all on us. So we just had to figure out the logistics of it. And unfortunately, the crew we had before COVID, they had to go get jobs. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they had their own little personal come to Jesus moment of what do I need to do? Is this what I should
Right.
be doing or not? And unfortunately, we spent so many years doing it. Well, fortunately, really, that we're just too dumb to do anything else at this point in our lives. So we just kind of stayed the road. But definitely how we do it now is different. Then I mean, we got shit, dude. We used to tour 250 days plus a year
Oh,
every year, and last year we did like 20 shows, and we just cherry picked them. And the year before that, we did a couple more shows. So this year we're like we talked about earlier. We got a European tour. We're putting some more things together this year, but we'll have a new album to put behind it. You know what I mean? There's a reason to do it, not just to tour to tour.
Right. You mentioned that that you had all those years of basically just partying and whatever. Did you kind of was COVID kind of a reset point on that for you guys, or did that moment happen
It
sooner?
happened. It happened some years before that. I
I
mean,
got you. Okay.
we were all getting older and hopefully more emotionally mature. And we just had too many, as any band does, we had too many blow-ups, on the road, people not getting along, and you're in close quarters, you're in a tube with 8, 9 people, you know what I mean? You got to figure out how to be respectful. So there's that. And plus, I had some health issues along the way uh, that I just, was like I used to be going to look for an 8 ball and some whiskey, and now I'm just looking for a gym and some creatine. You know what I mean?
right.
It's a
Right.
whole different mindset because you know if I'm terrible at a show, it doesn't matter if I'm like perfect every other night. People are going to remember the show I was terrible at.
You're
You know what
right.
I mean? So, and you only get you get an hour up there, so should be your best, right?
Well, I'll say the two times that I saw you guys, you and especially you and I'm going blank on the guitar players. Ship I know is one. What's
Derek,
your other? Yeah. I
Josh,
don't know. You guys seem like you were having fun, man. So I mean that's what stood out to me. I mean, yeah, you guys put on a show, but y'all seem like y'all were buddies and you know what I mean.
yeah,
Enjoy. I mean, at those times, both of those, you happen to be out. We talked about this earlier, but you happen to be out with Theory of a Dead Man, several years apart on both
uh,
of those shows. But still, yeah, y'all just seem like y'all were, like I said, buddies jamming on the road. So I
yeah. I
mean,
mean, even when you can't stand to look at the other person, that 1 hour on stage is still pretty good. I don't, it's always you're
yeah.
going to get the best out of. If you can't feel good up there, then it's time to hang up the hat. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm sure we'll get to whatever new music is coming down the line, and I know you've had to tell this story. I'm sure several times, but can I give a like just a quick recap on some of the stuff you guys had that was going on during the making of your last album? I know that kind of yeah, it seemed like you had everything stacked against you on that album. From like you said, you mentioned your health and weather things going on in your hometown, and just this and that. Like I said, I know you've said it many times, but I think it's a something. A lot of people that listen to music, they don't know what all this stuff that goes in. All they hear is the single that's on the radio. So
Sure.
it's not always easy peasy.
No, I mean, every it seemed like making that record. It was like everything was stacked against us on that one. That's the Revelator record.
Hmm.
We had started demoing it. We usually don't demo our stuff. We just kind of have a half-assed idea of what we're going to do and then go make it in the studio. Um, but we demoed pretty heavy because we just wanted to make a modern record, and which was different than what we'd done before. And so we were in the process. It was the end of the demos. We were getting into the studios, and we still rent out studios and spend all that money. But the other part of it is you also have to convince the record label to give you the money for the down payment for the studio and all that stuff. Right. So we're sending stuff to them, and they're not really digging it that much, and so we're already kind of really bummed because we're already, once you get to that phase, you're kind of all in. And our tornado ripped through the town when the producer was on the top floor of the hotel. That hotel was pretty smashed up. He come down, didn't hit the elevator, thank God. It chased me. I lived in this cabin in the woods about an hour and a half from town. It chased me all the way down the road. And then I finally pulled in underneath a fueling station, and it ripped that thing off. And then the flooding came after that. That was fun to deal with. And then I went in for an amputation consultation. Yeah, eventually. And because I was on a construction site many years ago, hurt myself, bunch of surgeries, and so they replaced my ankle, put a new one in, and it was just it was just like one thing after another, man. It was we finally got to make that record, and then COVID hit. Like we talked about, it was just like boom, 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 and then our bass player moved on. We'd been with him since 1995 or something like that. So that was it just wouldn't stop, and it's like the universe was against us. Usually, you're supposed to listen to the universe every once in a while. I ought to tell you, but we're deaf to it.
Understood.
And we're gonna hang out in that room and just keep on being in that room. If we walked in the wrong room, this is the room we're in now.
Gotcha. How about you, going?
Well, I gotta be honest. I don't meet very many people that have a replacement ankle, but I feel like what is it? It's not Eskimo Brothers, but I also have a fake ankle. So,
oh yeah,
yeah, I feel your pain.
I don't either.
I have a 3D printed ankle, which is kind of wild. It's relatively new technology, but yeah, cool, man. It's nice to have something in common.
He's hoping to be able to walk soon.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, it's a good year. It's about a year of recovering is what it took me.
Yeah, I had my 4th surgery about 30 days ago. So I had the replacement done in February. This is the kind of content that people tune in for.
That's okay.
So appreciate that.
Hardcore shit right here.
Yep.
See how cool, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so this is the weirdest question I think the weirdest question I'll ask tonight, but at least helps me wrap my head around kind of where you sit musically. So I'm going to give you a pie, and the pie has 4 sections. The first section is the creation of the song or songwriting. Second section is recording. Third section is performing. And then the fourth section would be the business, the business of the music. Where do you naturally gravitate in terms of those 4 areas? Is there one area where you go, okay, that's what I'm best at, that's my sweet spot, or that's where I have the most to give?
Yeah, 1 and 2. That's
okay.
The writing and the recording. That's the funnest part for me. I'm here. I live here in Nashville, and it's wild to watch being in the room with some of these writing sessions. And it's just like, they're cranking out 3 or 4 of them, and between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. they got 4 songs, it'll take me a month to just, I want to agonize. I want to soak in it a little bit. I want it to be a process, like, I've always read about from all my heroes, you know what I mean? And of course, none of the songs that are a huge process anybody gives a damn about. It's always the ones that come in 20 minutes and it's done, you know what I mean? From front to back. But yeah. And then being creative in the recording process too. I mean, now it is so easy to make great sounding things. It's also a little sterile too, I think, for a lot of music that comes out, or they're just doing something that they've heard someone else do. So I always like to just make it a little weird in the studio, and I don't know, just the like the way we mic things up. I want to be creative and still also we're kind of old school in how we do all that. I mean, all the guitars are actual, they're amps and the tubes and everything that we use as much analog as we can. Now, there's, especially in our genre, rock and roll, it's a lot of people are using like these computers, they're modelers, and they just, they kind of make the sound of what you're looking for, but they don't quite. It's the mistakes. It's the fuzz. It's this amp didn't get wired properly, or it did, after 45 years of being abused, it sounds a different way now. That's what I want to capture. So I want to capture those little imperfections, because that's really what
You're right.
it's kind of lacking, I think, in a lot of things. You mentioned Coulter Wall. I mean, not one song of his is his guitar perfectly in tune. It's not, but that's what makes him so unique.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
The grit and the imbalance that those strings that aren't quite perfectly in tune, they speak a different language, and that's kind of language I enjoy trying to interpret, translate a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. I don't know this, but I would assume at the very beginning of your all's career, you were involved in all parts, including probably all parts of the business.
We have this manager that we've had for 20 years now.
Yeah.
And he's a local guy, and he's just family to us. And so, as much as, believe it or not, the older we get, the more we start paying attention to those things. Okay. Just out of the interest of wanting to know, of how the full thing works.
You're also on the road less.
And we're on the road less. Yeah. A little more time to mess with it. So just trying to wrap your head around, all the ins and outs. There's so many ins and outs. I could live the rest of my life I could do this for another 40 years and still not understand. There is no best way. That's the first thing. There's no best way there's things that you can try to do, and it works for a lot of people. So try to do the things that works for a lot of people and everything. But still, I mean, at its core, we are making art. So it's, someone's going to interpret it as good. Someone's going to interpret it as it's terrible. If I were to give any business advice, it would be, don't listen to any business advice, because it just, what works for me,
you got to find your way.
Ain't going to work. Yeah, you got to find your way, man. What works best for your craft?
Yeah. I am curious. You kind of alluded to this, but you said you've had the same manager for 20 plus years. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's wild. Cause I mean, that's like incredibly rare.
Well, I mean, through the years, I mean, there's been plenty of people come along. They go like, we could do this for you. The thing, the thing that they give you.
Right.
But nobody's gonna mortgage their house for us to make a record like he did that for us. A guy named Phil Dunscombe. He's gonna cringe even that fact that I mentioned his name. He's a dude that just likes to sit in the back and believes in the project. He really does. And he always had. So he's, like I said, he's mortgaged his house. He's put down money to just get us out on the road, to pay the down payments for the bus and all the things that need to happen. Right. And so we could fiscally pay him back, but I don't know that we could ever like pay him back for the things that he's done to actually forward our career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sometimes it's easy. At least I don't know if it's easy, but it can happen on the artist side where you kind of go, "This is what we do," and but it's easy to forget that it is a two-sided relationship, whether it's a manager or even fans or supporters or whoever it may be, that those folks sit back and see something, maybe sometimes that the band doesn't even see, but that reciprocal relationship is pretty important. You can make all the music you want, but if you don't have the folks there that see it, at least somewhat the way you see it, it's tough to make that thing into an
No,
enterprise. So
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
that's super cool. I'm trying to think of. I'm sure there are examples, but there aren't a lot of examples of folks that have been with the same manager for a long time. So shout out to Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what.
and you never know what, like, well, this, just because they're wanting to talk to you and while you're on the high doesn't mean they're going to stick with you on the low. So,
Oh yeah, man. That's it. It's how do people treat you when you're at the bottom of the charts? You know what I mean? Or you haven't done something in a few years.
right.
That's. I mean, and that's it. It's like, you know, you clawed your way to the top 10 of whatever it is that whatever chart that you're working on, and you're at the peak, and your guarantees have doubled and all those things, and you got a few extra thousand people in the seats. There will be a point that does not exist.
Right.
There may be a point where it does exist again, but
Right.
that's really tough
The
for a lot
valleys.
of people. Yeah, those valleys are really tough for people to try to navigate emotionally through. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just to keep the fire going for what I want to. So, I know there's been plenty of times in my life where I've gone, and what am I doing this for? Why am I, you know, I got a kid, how am I going to support this kid? How am I going to just live my life in this valley? And I think the answer is always, well, I never did it for. It's always been to make music. It really, it's cheesy as that sounds. It's always the reason. The reason for doing it is because I have to not. I have to not just have it in here. I have to have it out. I have to release that thing. 5 people listen to the record, so be it. It's one of the worst days of of my life as an artist is the day it's released. A record is released to the public, because it's no longer just something that was inside, and that I've been able to make turn outside it. Right now, it's just ours. It's ours, and then the day it's released, it's now everyone's. And so that's kind of like it's a weird, tough thing to navigate. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to be more successful in all those things and be able to, send my kid to the best schools and all those things. But, at the end of the day, if nothing comes of it, it's still pursuing a dream of making music.
Is that a vulnerable thing when you're releasing that music out, for the first, especially like a single or whatever it is from your first project? I mean, that's got to be one of the most
Yeah,
nerve-wracking things ever.
it can be pretty nerve wracking. How are people going to take it? One thing I started doing about 10 years ago is I don't listen to any responses. I don't read any comments. I don't, because because you come to the conclusion, no one's going to be 100% happy. There's plenty of people that want you to make the record that you made before, that's the thing that they fell in love with your project with. You know what I mean?
Which you understand,
So,
but
yeah, which I
artistically,
get it, but we just did that. We can't do that again. It's going to be a different thing now. Uh,
yep.
Wait for the greatest hits record, I guess. I don't know what to tell you, but there's always going to be, and even, if it's critically acclaimed, and it's like everyone loves it, then it's probably a terrible record. You probably didn't make anything worth making if
Or
everyone
just
thinks
going to
it's
stick
great.
around for a while.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, we're a little bit late on our halftime thing, so I want to play a song. You told me to pick one, so what I did,
Yeah.
I found the set list that
Oh,
Mr. Ship gave my son. All right, so
nice.
and the first song on there is Bird Dog, and primarily most of the folks that are on this pod are country leaning, so Bird Dog fits. But so, is there anything about Bird Dog as far as the song itself? Is there a story behind that, or?
Man, I just set out to write something where I could sing as low as possible and still try to make it melodically make sense. It was just really I was singing way down low, and the producer goes, "That's pretty cool," and I was like, "Okay, well, so if it's terrible, it's his fault."
Fair enough.
All right, here's Bird Dog. Also, we figured out what the blanked out song was on this.
What was it?
Country as fuck.
Oh, why would we pull that one?
Is a blackbird perched upon black dog. They're blind young eyes, gazing in the backyard. And there's no man keeps his money in his own bed. And he ain't on the prize, just takes it to his deathbed. He ain't waiting for the prize, just takes it to his deathbed. This dirt road leading out to a dirt farm. The only house to the table from the pills meeting bathtub. And there's a warrior, his old buddies call him Gunny. Keeps his honor in a lockbox, locked up in the basement. He's on his honor in a lockbox, locked up in the basement. Bring out your guns, put down your guns, lay down your guns and say I'm artillery. Bring out your guns, put down your guns, lay down your guns and say I'm artillery. If you ever find yourself in Franklin County, won't you turn on back, or you won't leave here above ground? 'Cause there's a monster feeding on the essence of every goddamn soul, and never gives its fill. Of every goddamn soul, and never gets its fill. cemetery.
So I can attest when y'all do play that live and the chorus hits that the crowd starts moving. Then even if they're kind of not, if you're in an opening position or whatever, and they're kind of not necessarily paying attention, but when the chorus hits, everybody
Yeah,
starts
yeah,
bobbing their head. Then so
yeah. The verses are kind of wandering around a little bit. There's all these tribal drums going on, and so there
exactly.
we are.
One thing
I've heard-
about is that stood out to me, I guess, because both times I saw you guys with Theory, and Theory is still has a lot of backup and harmony vocals as well. Sometimes in modern rock, that's not used so much. You guys still use that a lot in your at least in your live shows like that.
Sure. I mean,
So
when you're
with
yeah,
both of those bands, it seemed like it. I don't know. It just stood out, I guess.
it's man, I love a good harmony. It's like if it's part of the magic spell. It's like these two notes blend to make it's just a chord. When two. It's just a simple but it's magic. It really is. It's like this
Hmm.
makes you feel a certain way. I mean, I could sing a line or whatever, and cool, whatever. But when that harmony is like weaving in and out, it's two people working together artistically to make one, kind of bone chilling sound. And we grew up, covering like Eagles and stuff, so you kind of have to. That kind of carries itself on into the music.
So I was gonna say, it kind of. I would imagine that leans back to what was before Shaman's Harvest with the
Yeah,
harmony parts. Yeah.
yeah. It's all that.
If you grew up strictly on Pantera, then
Yeah, yeah.
it's
It's
gonna be
gonna be a lot
worse.
of harmony. Yeah,
Right. Go ahead.
so two things about that song. One, I feel like I need to go work out now. Like that would be on my workout playlist. Shout out to
hell
y'all.
Uh-huh.
And then
yeah. I think that it's on Spotify or one of those things. There's a playlist. I think I saw it was Chest Day or something like that. It was
yeah,
on.
for sure. Perfect pace. And
Yeah,
then Franklin County, Missouri, I assume.
yeah. That's where I
Okay.
was living at the time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's one of those counties. Yeah, every state has them. Every county is that way now. It's just tends is rough. Not a lot of work going on. You know what I mean? Like a
Small
lot of
towns
people
are dying
scratching their
situation.
necks out. Yeah, it's you don't get out alive. If you're living your whole life in those places, it's live younger,
if I,
I guess, for
if I
longer.
remember right, I think most of the sizable towns in that county are up by the river, and
Yeah,
there is Merrimack Caverns, though. If you ever get the chance,
I've
take the
been
kids
many
there.
times,
Very cool.
many a
Very
time.
very
That's
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
super cool. I've floated that Merrimack River probably 20, 30 times, man.
No, that's awesome.
It's a good one.
What,
It actually I could pull right up to my cabin in a canoe on that thing, basically.
oh,
Take that river
wow.
to right onto my place. Yeah.
That's amazing. A couple of questions. These aren't quite rapid fire, but I know you have. You'd mentioned you have a UK Ireland tour coming up in
Yeah.
2025. Anything that you can share with us about that?
Yeah. It's our first tour crossing the pond. Period. We had one put together in 2017 or 16 with Blackstone Cherry, but it got canceled like a day before we were supposed to get on the plane. The whole tour got canceled. So this is, and we, like I've said before, you tend to go with somebody who's already established in those areas. But us and this another band called Blacktop Mojo, we just kind of rolled the dice, and we're going to see if we can get anybody to these shows. And it might be a big flop, and we might lose our asses. But
I
if
doubt it.
I'd be an insurance salesman if we wanted to take the sure thing. We're all musicians, so we don't
Right.
have a great mind for business.
And
So
then
it's
as
clearly something you wanted to do for a long time.
it's on the list that you got to check off to feel like you even did it. You know what I mean? To even feel like you've been a rock musician or any kind of musician, you got to cross that pond and try to get people that majority of them don't even know who we are. So I mean, that's, we've sold some albums there, but like, we've never been there, so it'll be cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's gonna be great. And truthfully, you probably are at a point now in your life where if you've done that in your first 10 years, you might not have really appreciated what a cool experience that is.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
During that 10-year period. Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
We're going to be in Ireland during St. Patty's Day.
Oh,
So there's no way I was going to be able to navigate getting through that.
speaking of
period
coming out alive.
Right.
Ask myself. Yeah, totally.
One of the things as I did just a little bit of I don't know if you call it digging, but just a little bit of research, I guess. I noticed there was a time there where you had a lot of connections to the wrestling world. How did that? Was that did you have somebody working sync deals, or how did that come about? Or
they had this guy named Jim Johnston, and matter of fact, I think he is probably the highest paid to this day. The highest paid. I could be wrong, but I'm just going to throw this out there anyway. I think he's the highest paid BMI rider. He belonged to BMI because, I mean, more people tune in to Monday Night Raw at one time than people tuned into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's
right. I don't know what it is now, but back in the day, it was crazy. And it might even be more now because it's global now. And so this guy came along in the 70s with McMahon. McMahon needed somebody to program music and write like entrance themes and stuff. He knew somebody with a keyboard, Jim Johnson, who was not a songwriter at the time or an arranger or any which way whatsoever. He had a Casio keyboard, and that's the only person Mr. McMahon knew who had any kind of musical connection whatsoever. So he hired him to be his music director. And throughout the years, all the entrance, pretty much, if you remember an entrance theme, he wrote it. Wow. He had heard our song Dragonfly, and he liked something about the vocals about it. And he had a song in mind, and he sent us. It was okay. So I've been to the studio at WWE, and it's like walls and walls of every compressor and beautiful outboard gear and cute baby grand pianos and violins and strings, all this amazing gear that you'll never, you won't see in your lifetime, much less in one place. And he could have used any of that stuff, could have hired anybody to record a demo to send to us, but it's just him who he's tone deaf, completely tone deaf from a vocal standpoint, but he's kind of singing into this like tape recorder thing that he then he digitized and sent to us. But it's like a tape recorder. He's sitting at his desk and he's just kind of pounding out a melody, not playing the piano, but just like single note playing the melody of what the song should be. And he was like, okay, go make this. Well, it was complete. It was like gibberish. It didn't make sense whatsoever. So we just kind of rewrote it, the whole thing. The song's called Broken Dreams, and he was going to use it he didn't know who he was going to use it for. It wound up being a wrestler named Drew McIntyre. Mm-hmm. And of course, we didn't get any royalties because it's like, well, either do it or don't. And we needed the exposure at the time. So he was like, here's, I don't remember what, I think we got like $500 or something. It covered the studio for the day to record the thing, is what it was. And so, yeah, we made that song, and he was like, I love it. It's great. It's perfect. I made a great song. and we're like, yeah, man, this is fucking great. And but so then my mind, like at first also I'm criticizing it as a song and not thinking in terms of this is an entrance theme, so it needs to be kind of over the top, like, you know, I'm the baddest, you know, mofo around, you know. So then I was like, okay, wait a minute, I just need to change how I see these things, because at first I was like, my integrity, I can't musical integrity, you know. What are you talking about? This is going to be this is going to be on, you know, they're making video games with the theme song in it. Do the thing. So we did that, and then he called back, and he wanted a couple others, and then he was doing a movie, and we were like, okay, that's cool, but we'll do this song that you sent, but we want you to put one of our songs in your movie. You know, and if the worst case scenario is he's like, no, and then I don't have to go record this song that I think is awful, which I've come to appreciate later.
Right.
But at the time, there was no, you know, it was a wash, you know. So, and he said, yeah, okay, cool. So we put our song in a movie he made, and he was the music director. McMahon uses him for everything that had anything to do with music whatsoever, because he owned Casio in the 70s. Yeah. And then so he flew me up to see the WWE studios and then work there for like, they did a WrestleMania and they needed a commercial. So I did the part for like Bray Wyatt was coming like out of the darkness, and it was a whole thing for the commercial. Yeah, it was pretty wild. We've gained a lot of fans based off of that, because the other thing is that when it comes up, it says "Buy Shaman's Harvest" at the bottom of the screen. You know what I mean? Right. So that's kind of like, that's the duh moment. It's like, duh, of course. Right. Yeah, of course we should do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad I asked that question. Usually I ask really crappy questions, but that I feel was good based upon your answer. So yeah.
Good one.
Can you kind of give an idea?
They just never ask. That was a great question, because people want to know, they just don't ask. They're like, oh, better stay away from the WWE. I don't want to get sued. You guys don't give a shit. You're like, yeah, let's get sued. No, I'm just kidding.
Come after me.
Everything I've got, which is, you know, a couple of
real guitars.
Yeah. So can you tell, as far as, you know, you guys were out for a bit when you did those things with the WWE? Was that something that could you tell like a jump on anything, or was any of this in like the digital age where you could actually see all those numbers physically, or was this before that?
This was like, I mean, this was just before like the analytics of it kind of really,
I got you,
started figuring that out. But you know, I do have eyeballs, and it wasn't an immediate. It wasn't immediate. It was like slowly just going to the shows, and then, you know, you get people playing, you know, play Broken Dream, you know, like they request the songs here and there,
which you wouldn't get anyway. Yeah,
they didn't give them anyway. So I'd say it definitely helped our fan base, you know, in one way or another. Plenty of people have found our songs by just visiting that, and to this day, it's the number one most downloaded WWE song in history of WWE or F. So it's a kind of a crazy ride. I think there's a petition for him to start using it again on the WWE's.
That's nice.
So I have to ask, speaking of, I don't know if other people ask, but I'm going to ask, how did Dirty Diana come about with you guys putting your spin on that and covering that?
Well, I've always been a big believer in, if you're going to cover a song, do it how you would do it. Don't just regurgitate it. You know what I mean? There's plenty of bands that just make the same song with just them singing. But so if it's worth doing, then it's worth not really evolving it. It's definitely not, it's not better. It's just different. It's just how we would do the thing. Right. So we were out of songs and we had the studio booked. That's really the end. I mean, we had nothing we were in the studio and we're kind of like, you know, messing around with stuff that wasn't quite fitting. I think we even got, for like 2 days, we had gone down the path of making a song that we were at that point, we were just like, this is terrible. Let's stop this and reset. What do you want to do? well, Dirty Diana was on back in the days when we were in a van and trailer. It was one of many of the agreed on, playlists.
Right.
That was the old iPod Shuffle or whatever, and so we're just like, why not? And we did, and it was one of those why not moments that was, we could have not made that very easily. We could have very easily just moved on and made
Did you
something
know
else.
you
But
kind
it's
of
one of
had
those.
something though when you did get that when you did get it down? Did you realize that it was as kind of? I
By
mean,
the
it's pretty kicking.
by the end of the day, we were like, this is pretty glad we went down this path, because it was it, because it the producer, who at the time, great guy, Richie, would never, he didn't get excited about much. Like, you could just be pouring your heart out and playing the best performance of your life, and he'd be like, okay, next, like, let's move on to the next thing, check it off the list, and you're like on the floor just sweating and pouring your heart out and all this stuff. But he was raised one eyebrow and goes, hmm. And that's when we were like, okay, we got
Thanks,
a
Richie.
hit in our hands. Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
buddy.
Yeah, it's good to have barometers like that, though. I mean,
For sure.
yeah.
For sure. Our manager was the same way. I think we got a C+ from a show one time. It was probably the greatest show we will ever play. I think the highest rating was a C+. Yeah.
But we
It's a
won't
tough
play
curve.
it on the pod. But anybody that hasn't listened to in the Shaman's Harvest music, definitely, we tend to lean more towards the older crowd. So we know the Michael Jackson song "Dirty Diana." So go check out their version of it for sure. It's like you said, it's not necessarily better, just it's different. But when in a live setting, again, that's one of those choruses when you guys hit it, the crowd's all into it. I'm sure from your point of view, um, you know what I mean. It's cool to see from the stage or the reaction of
Cool.
those
Yeah.
songs like that. Yeah.
When the recognition, that little light bulb comes on. And I think it was I think it was 2016 stripper world championships. It was like the
Oh,
the girl won the stripper, the world stripper, whatever that is,
giddy
the
up.
World Series of
She-
pole dance.
Well,
She'll
all
be
right.
on next week on the show,
Yeah,
so we're looking
exactly.
forward to that.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
There you go. You guys,
She's like 55 now. No, actually, that'd be either way.
probably
Yeah,
55 then.
Either way.
Well, it's still an upgrade.
yeah. There you go.
Well, all right. We can we'll ask a couple real quick rapid fire questions and let you get out of here. We appreciate the time, man. As far as new music, I was actually had somebody in the chat ask about that. Do you have anything like that on in the radar on 2025?
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, we definitely have to release a record in 25. We've got 5 demoed in the can right now. It's a complete shift from the last record, as every record is. It's going to be pretty wild, man. It's like it's almost like rock opera, but not opera. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It's like if Coulter Wall and David Bowie had a baby. That's where we're at right now. We're just 5 songs in, so see if we can add some other. Maybe it'll be Coulter Wall, Queen, and Madonna. I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be a weird looking baby, though. I'm into it.
That is the odd thing as far well, I'll say odd. It's something that stood out to me just from the little bit, I guess, social media or things I've pieced together from you guys over the years. I mean, you talk or listen to somehow. I don't know if I guess it's just pieces on social media, but you listen to all kinds of music. It's all these, like you said, Coulter and Chris Stapleton and whatever, all this different stuff.
Sure.
And then I know Derek, like he's a big like blues southern rock kind of guy. But then you throw all you guys into a melting pot and you have a different sound together, which is which is cool. I mean,
Yeah,
to be able to live in that world like that.
It's pretty. It makes it interesting. You know what I mean? We can make stuff that's just maybe not cookie cutter, or I don't know how you've worded it, but it's definitely, there's no formula with Shaman's Harvest. It's just kind of wide open. Everything from Motown, from Allman Brothers to the Zelda theme from the video game. The entire weirdness, we're gonna try to make it make sense.
Love it. I love it.
If that
Well, that's you mentioned earlier making art, and that's where that falls in right there. So,
Yep.
man.
All right, hit him.
All right, rapid fire, Nate. If we hop in your vehicle, not your van, but your vehicle, what's on your playlist?
It's all podcasts, man. It's
Oh,
honest to
okay.
God,
Great.
it's all podcasts. Yeah,
We're up next.
yeah.
Awesome. Your I don't know, useless knowledge of country music, if you hop in here, is going to increase. So we appreciate you listening. Desert Island album, just one.
Yeah, just one. Any Steely Dan, anything Steely Dan.
Okay.
That's my desert island band.
Man, they're
They're
the
not a
kings
band
of,
though, are
they're kings of
the older
the
I get,
production for
more,
sure.
yeah. The
Just
older I get,
amazing.
the more I used to hate them. I grew up hating them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Why do I hate perfection? That's what it is, really.
Yeah, it's really good. Dinner with one historical figure.
Oh, piss. Um, uh, oh.
John Daly.
That would be pretty fun.
Oh, it'd be fun.
Yeah, we can talk about our old haunts. I will.
Yeah.
That's my pick, John Daly. Yeah, talk about
All right.
old haunts.
Sorry, I ruined
Talk
that one.
about
Well done, Soul.
the golf
Yeah.
cart girls. You know.
Yeah, it'd be
He
fun.
probably knows that stripper from the championship
He
too.
probably does.
I promise you, it
High
does.
probability.
I promise.
What do you see when you play?
Usually the back of my eyelids, man. But a lot of times, I see when I'm writing music, I see these cinematic just moments. It has not that usually generally has nothing to do with the lyrical there's no story or something. It's not really the story. It's just like these just little cinematic moments. If that's just, a wheat field situation, like gladiator type situation, or it's just just how I see the frame. So a lot of times I flash back to those images that again have nothing to do with the lyrics of what I was seeing while writing the song. So I'm basically having a psychedelic trip the entire time I'm singing. I don't need drugs anymore. I just need to be weird.
Just shake your head a little bit as you
Yeah,
get older. That gets you dizzy. There you go.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
This might have changed over the years, but what will your ideal green room look like?
Now it's just if I can get some sandwich fixins and just some like six local beers, just like a bit, just whatever is people think is good in that area. I'm so happy with that rider. It used to be ridiculous. I mean, it was just absolutely ridiculous of what like just things that we would demand. Like there was like a left Converse shoe that but it had to be classic because someone who works there has a set of Converse shoes, but it had to be like the old school ones. Just random dumb stuff. But there was always a lot of party. Now I'm kind of an introvert. I've always been an introvert, and that's probably why I got so crazy back in the day. But now I just want if a green room no one could be in it except for me, that'd be the perfect green room.
I gotcha. I understand. First concert that you attended, and then the first concert that you paid to go see.
I think the first concert I paid to go see. I was 13 years old. I was a bus boy, and I was living in Jackson, Missouri, which is kind of down around Boot Hill.
Yep.
And to Cape Girardeau, to our arena, came Warrant, Tesla, and Winger or something like that, maybe.
Kip Winger.
What are those?
Yeah, there you go.
What are the Nelson brothers? What was that band?
Nelson.
Oh yeah, it's just Nelson.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's who came to our town, and I hung out with all there was hoods, and this was like the outsiders, man. There was hoods and there was preps. I was a hood that played football, and I wanted to hang out with all the girls that smoked cigarettes in the mall. So they were going to be at the Warrant show, and that's at 13. That's what I decided. That was my unfortunate first concert. One of the coolest concerts was just recently. I saw Bob Dylan in a room that was smaller than the Blue Note.
Wow.
600 people. Yeah, didn't even know he was there. Didn't even know. It was just him and a 3-piece. And he's just playing piano and just singing the shit out of some stuff. Nobody knew any of the material, but it was awesome.
It didn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Bob Dylan.
Now we know how you got the name Pony Boy. In terms of bucket list venue is the next question, and I'm sure you've played some amazing venues, but is there one that you would like to play, maybe that you haven't had the chance yet to play?
I've played some amazing venues out there, but Royal Albert Hall probably would be. Yeah. Probably be. That's the next one on the list to try to get to, I think.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. All right, two more. Go ahead. Sorry.
Fire away. No, it used to be in Denver. It was Red Rocks. I was just like, once we hit Red Rocks, I was like, that's it, we did it. And then we played Red Rocks, and it was a horrible experience because the altitude changed and it was dry. I was just dumping water down my throat. Still couldn't. It was too dry to sing, and yeah, it was a bummer.
Who were you with on that one?
It was us. Yeah, it was us and Nickelback.
Okay.
And
I knew you were out with them quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Daughtry was on that leg of that tour too, and
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean it was a great experience and everything, but it didn't live up to what I had in my head of how great that was going to be.
These things happen.
Yeah.
All right, this one's a little, I don't know if it's tougher, but Mount Rushmore of rock music, and specifically bands. You got to pick 4 bands that go on your Mount Rushmore.
For rock, Zeppelin. I had to throw the Beatles on there. Shouldn't be as hard as it is.
It's harder the further you go.
God, it is. It is.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm not a Rolling Stones guy, but I feel like they have to be on the monument. I feel like they have to be up there. You know what I mean? I'm not really. I'm probably not a Thomas Jefferson guy either, but he's on there.
Shade at TJ.
And then number 4, I'm. There's a little dark horse in there. I'm going to pick the Rival Sons just because I love them so much. I think they're the greatest rock band around. But so yeah, somebody modernish needed to go in there. So I'm going to throw the Rival Sons in there.
Very cool.
Incredibly solid list. And then last question, and then I'll shut up and hand it over for the most important question of the evening.
Right.
Tribute bands, yay or nay?
Hey man, it's the best way to pay the bills as a musician. We don't make what those guys make. That's so for them, I'm gonna go. It's a big yay. I've watched some tribute bands that I thought were incredible, but being here in Nashville, I don't know if you get downtown at all. Very often, you get real sick of them real easy.
Yeah.
Because they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
It's a love-hate thing. Yeah. Totally
yeah, it is.
Well, I hate to keep pushing this along, but how did you get? Can you tell us real quick how you got to Nashville? We didn't really touch on that part, and what kind of brought you there?
Well, I met a girl.
Oh,
This is
okay.
what
Well,
usually
that
happens
was
anyway.
quick story.
Yeah, I met a girl. I was on a boat. I was playing on a ship, this rock cruise, and it was for me. It was miserable because there's no escape. They have full access to all the musicians,
To an
and
introvert. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and I was playing this celebrity poker thing or whatever, and I was trying to get the hell out of there. So I was playing terribly. I was looking to lose, and this gal out of nowhere was at the bar, and she did one of these numbers. Wanted to buy me a drink because she could tell I was. She just could read the energy, and she was about one of the prettiest women I've ever seen in my life. And I was, I'm looking behind me like, surely she's not talking to me, and she was. Fast forward, we went on 3 more dates, and then we got married. Well, she didn't know I lived in a cabin in the woods in the middle of Missouri. So she came to live with me, and she was like, I, I get it. I know why you like living in the cabin in the woods, but I need people. I got to people every once in a while. You know what I mean? And
I can
and she had
relate to
just
all
moved,
this.
she had just moved from Vegas, so you can understand the shock
She didn't want to talk
that.
to the squirrels. Yeah.
Right, right. So Nashville was like that medium thing. I didn't come here for music or anything. I've worked with some people since I've been here that I probably wouldn't have worked with without moving here. But
Okay.
so that's been beneficial in that way. But I didn't come here to
I got you.
make it in the country industry or anything like that because you don't come to Nashville for that. People think you
Right.
do, but you don't come to
Right.
Nashville. Nashville will kill your career, right? It'll,
Well,
because well, it can if you're young, you can just keep on live doing the thing playing Broadway. I just see that so many times where kids will think that's where someone's going to discover them,
right.
which they would have in the '90s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not now.
Yeah, it's. But I'll tell you what, some of the best musicians I've ever seen were out down there playing because they've worked their chops, worked on their chops and just
Every day,
constantly
all
figure out
day.
how to, yeah, all day, every day.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, networking wise, I'm sure I would love to. I'd love to ask you about this in a year to see networking wise how that works as far as for you in Nashville because
Man,
I imagine you start meeting people quick
I've
and
I've met some. I've worked with some people, and then just hung out privately with people, like you know, hanging out with Jamie Johnson every once in a while, and just people that I never would have in in any world just gone and hung out with, had dinner with, stuff like that. So it's been cool, and it's also allowed me to see other sides of the business aspect too, and kind of saying, oh, we can actually do that. We should kind of maybe mold our business decisions maybe a little bit that direction and open those things up. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you, maybe it's because I'm getting older, but the our the music we're making now, we're writing is, I would say, it's leaning pretty heavily classic country too. I mean, it's still rock and roll, but now a lot of new country is pretty rock and roll too.
Yeah.
So it's this weird,
Blurred lines.
the genres.
yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
Yep, for sure.
Well, all right, man. Well, I got one more question, and it's a quick one, and then we'll get you out of here. All right, so this started off as a joke on episode number 1. We're on like I don't know, we'll be pushing 60 at this point, and so this, like I said, it started off as a joke, but now it is a requirement. So, Nate, what is your favorite Little Debbie cake snack? What is your favorite Little Debbie snack?
Oh man, can't be Hostess. It's got to be Little Debbie.
We
We're
can.
we're pining for a Little Debbie sponsorship, so
Oh,
we
that
prefer
should
Little
absolutely
Debbie.
be. I prefer Little Debbie too. Oh man,
You
just
can
for
give us one
classic.
of
I mean,
each.
I kind of got to go with the moon pie, man. Is that Little Debbie? That's
It's
Little Debbie, right?
it's no, but it's okay. That's
It's
a
a
that's
that's
Oh
a good
no,
one. Yeah,
no,
we're good.
yeah.
no. I
I don't think they're
hate moon.
affiliated.
Yeah, I
Well,
hate moon
They're
pies. They just
independent.
I think they're on their own.
oatmeal cream. Oatmeal cream.
There you
That's I
go.
got oatmeal cream
Yeah.
right up in the thing. I can't get my kid to eat them, but I'm a fan.
There you go.
We appreciate you playing
Very
along.
nice. Yes.
All right, so we got to go through this. Make sure you follow Shaman Tarvis on Instagram and all of your socials, wherever you stream your music. You hit that follow button anytime on these, Instagram or whatever, and they ask you to play or ask you to pre-save songs when they start releasing singles. Please do so. It doesn't cost anything. Just hit the button so that it helps get. Unfortunately, we have to deal with an algorithm on Spotify and Apple and all that stuff also. So it helps get them in playlist and rotations and all this different stuff. It helps everybody involved. So, yeah, make sure you do those things and on all of their Instagram or all their social posts, interact with them, like, comment, and we don't necessarily like to play that game, but that's the way things work.
It's a
Things
game
work
we're
these
in.
days. You're right.
Yeah.
So
Everybody, do
Yep.
me a favor and go add Dirty Diana to your playlist now. You can thank me later.
uh, all right.
Yeah, Michael Jackson's royalties would really appreciate it. He really
Right,
needs more.
yeah, for
His
sure.
estate.
Got to support the family. Well, Nate, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. And if there's anything we can do to help along the way, feel free to holler.
It was a great combo.
Thanks, man.